Lagging muscle groups are something we all have, and for me, mine was my chest for so long, but I feel like I've brought it up to a standard where it's kind of in line with everything else now. So I'm going to hopefully today teach you to do the exact same thing and show you what I'm doing to bring up my weaker points right now. So today I've got an upper body session for you, and I'm going to show you on the chest and back things because those are my weak points. I'm going to show you what I've been doing on those exercises specifically to ensure that I get the most growth possible. So let's get into it. First up for this upper session, we have pec deck. Now, I'm only doing one chest exercise on this because this is my third day of hitting chest. And I honestly wouldn't recommend normally doing too much frequency, but this is just what seems to work with me. I'm doing pec fly because it's relatively, compared to a pressing, like heavy pressing movement, it's less stress on the tendons and ligaments, which are likely to snap if you overdo something. So pec deck, you can see basically what I'm thinking about is keeping everything in line. So shoulders, elbows, and wrists all in line. And I'm thinking about bringing my elbows together at the end and then just trying to stretch as much as possible within reason. I'm not overstretching because that's how you get issues, but I'm basically just pushing to full rep failure as well because I'm kind of against partial reps. You can watch my previous video if you want to know why that is, but I'm kind of against partial reps, so just go to full rep failure and really try and squeeze out as much as you can. But now we're on to lat pull down. Again, back is something that has been a bit weak for me, like in terms of strength and size wise, compared to, I mean, you can see arms, like naturally I have pretty good arms, so chest and back is something I have to kind of build up. So on this I've switched to a mag grip because I find this to be better. When you're hitting lats, you want to make sure your elbows are staying in front of you the whole time, and I find on this neutral grip it's easier to make that happen. So just make sure your elbows are going straight up and down, and that's pretty much what we're doing for that, just pushing to failure and making sure to keep all the tension. Think about keeping all that tension on your lats. And now onto how to actually build up your lagging muscle groups. Now the first thing I want to tell you is if you're not lean right now, if you're not, let's say, sub 15% body fat, you don't know what's lagging. That's why personally as well, I'm doing a cutting phase right now because I've always thought my chest and back were lagging, but it's hard to see that sometimes when you've got a layer of body fat covering it. So there might be certain areas of body where you think are really well developed, but actually you're just holding loads of body fat there. I would encourage you to get really lean before you decide what's weak and what's not. Another mistake is adding too much volume. It's very easy when you want to put in the effort to bring something up, and trust me, I've been there, is to think, right, let me do as much as possible to bring this up. But what ends up happening is you sacrifice the rest of your workout, you impact recovery. Sometimes less is more. I'd rather see quality sets for that muscle group than just fatigue maxing, really. Like if you're doing constant drop sets, like rest pause, things like that over and over again, it's going to impact the rest of your workout. You're going to get less out the other muscles, and you're probably doing so much volume that you just can't recover from it, because ultimately we want to do as much as possible that we can still recover from. Especially like if you're natural, the ceiling of what you can recover from is so much lower. You really do need to be careful. And also, if you have a lagging muscle group, why are you training it at the end of the session? Now I know not everyone's doing this, but if something is smaller, if you're finding it needs to be brought up, train it at the start. It's like the logical thing to do, but so many people don't think like that for some reason. At the start of the session, you have the most energy. You're not going to have a more productive set than at the start of the session. So make sure you put the weak things at the start. For me, it's chest. So I will always start with chest, then move on to back before I hit any arms, because yes, you could say that my arms aren't getting hit as effectively because they're pre-fatigued from my earlier chest and back stuff, but I don't care because my arms are fine as they are. I'm not trying to bring them up massively right now, so put your stuff that you need to build up at the start. So if, for example, it's arms, do arms at the start. Whatever's the weakest muscle group, do that at the start when you are the freshest and have the most energy. You also need to make sure that your exercise selection is specific to your goals. If there's a movement that you've seen your mate do for chest because he has a massive chest, but you do it and it feels just awful, don't do it. It needs to be something that you can progressively overload and feel like you're absolutely destroying that muscle every time you do it. And often what works for someone else will not work for you. You need to focus on exercises that work for you, that feel like you're getting the most out of that muscle, and progressively overload them each time. And as a general rule, your set quality is so much more important than how much weight you're moving from A to B. And on a similar point, when you're really trying to bring up those lagging muscle groups, you need to focus so much on the quality of those sets. If you've got something that's easily coming up, you can get away with not being so focused, but when you really want to bring up a muscle group, you need to be making sure those sets are quality sets. And you'll often find that you end up doing less on that muscle group because you can't focus on having 4 amazing sets. Sometimes when you have 2 sets, that's all you can do. For me, a lot of the time, I will destroy a muscle so much on 2 sets that I can't do any more, and you'll find by the 3rd set you're just not in it. You need to move on. So sometimes you need to actually reduce the volume but just increase the intensity, increase the focus, just be dialed in on those couple of sets. And that's all you need, and you save time. But a big question is, how many times should you be hitting a muscle group to bring it up? For me, as a general rule, the idea of hit it as many times as possible and still be able to recover from it is really what I live by. You should be trying to hit the muscle as much as possible while still recovering. Recovery is where you grow, so you do need to make sure you're recovering. You don't want to be going into a session sore. And actually, a way you can kind of work this in is, I would sometimes, for some people, rather see you split the volume across 3 sessions rather than doing 2 sessions, because if you think about it, every time you go into the gym fresh, you have the most energy. You can focus on getting that mind muscle connection, that drive every single set at the start. But if you're doing, say, like 3 chest exercises, by the 3rd one, that's not going to be that, like, you're not going to be in it as much as you would be if that was your first exercise. So I'd rather you just move that to maybe a 3rd day, something like that. And if you hit it 3 times a week but do less exercises, you'll find the quality of your sets will be so much better. And a point I do want to touch on that isn't necessarily just relevant for this, it's relevant across all my videos, is your nutrition and recovery needs to be on point. Those muscles that you want to bring up are going to require way more dedication, way more thought than the ones that don't need bringing up. And so if you're not nailing nutrition and recovery, so your sleep and, well, your micro and macronutrient intake, you're not going to be getting the most out of your exercises and your sets and all the effort you're putting into the gym. There's no point putting 100% into the gym and 20% into your rest and recovery, because really that is where you grow. I touched on it earlier, but you do need to make sure that the recovery should be like equally as important to you as training hard in the gym. You can't do one without the other. But it's very important for me to say that when you want to bring up a muscle group, you can't expect to hit it for 2 weeks and see changes. It's going to take months, maybe a year, to really see the changes. It's only after showing up over and over again and hammering that exercise, that muscle group, that workout over and over again that you're going to see these changes. And if you're above 15% body fat, you're probably not going to see those changes until you get lean anyway. So don't feel like any of these changes that you implement are going to actually make a difference in a couple of weeks. It's going to take months, maybe years, but we're in it for the long run, so that shouldn't be a problem. Now, there is one group of people that this approach is not for. That is for beginners. If you've been training in the gym, let's say less than 3 or 4 years, you don't have lagging muscle groups. All of your muscle groups are lagging. You don't need to bring anything up. This is quite a common thing in younger people, that they will think in the first year, oh my god, my arms aren't growing, or oh my god, my chest isn't growing. You don't know how to activate those muscle fibers properly so that you can actually drive enough intensity for it to grow properly. So you need to work on developing that ability to connect with your muscles and really drive intensity through each muscle. Plus, none of your muscles are developed enough to really see what is dropping behind. You need to give it time, and sometimes things will just come up by themselves if you've been training like a short enough amount of time. And if you are a beginner, just make sure that you feel every exercise in the desired muscle group, and that muscle group probably will grow. So just trust the process, because it does take time. Now, I want to leave you guys with a final thought that I've been having recently, because it's all about intensity and work rate, and especially in lagging muscle groups. You will see someone that has something that you want, and you'll think, wow, what is it they're doing that I'm not doing? Like, they must be just working harder than me. And yes, they probably are working harder, but it's not a case of them doing double the amount of work than you, or doing this one extra exercise, or adding in this extra food. They're doing what you're doing, but 50 times the amount. Like, for me personally, posting on socials, it's very easy for me to be like, oh my god, why aren't I growing? Then I look at someone who is growing, and I can't even find a post on their feed that they posted 3 days ago. That's how much more volume they're doing. So it's the same with the gym. If you think, oh my god, I'm eating healthy, why am I not like losing weight? The person who has the physique you want, that's lost the weight you want to lose, is doing 50 times the work you're doing. They're not just trying to eat healthy. They are tracking every calorie, every gram of protein, every set, every rep, every minute of sleep. They are doing so much more than you. That's why they have the physique you want. If there's something that you want, you have to be willing to work as hard as physically fucking possible to get there. So however hard you think you need to work to get to where you want to be, work 10 times, 20 times, 50 times as hard, because that's how you get there. Not by just doing a little bit more. But anyway, guys, I feel like this turned into a bit of a rant, but sometimes you just need to like get stuff off your chest. And today was one of those videos. I'm sorry you caught the tail end of this, but yeah, I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you found this video useful. I do actually quite enjoy making these videos. If you want to see more of them, if there's any ideas you have for content for me, drop them in the comments. But yeah, that's it. If you are interested in coaching, there's a link below to my Instagram, and then click the link in my bio on Instagram. I know, long-winded, whatever. But yeah, that's it from me. I will see you in the next video.